May I please have your full and undivided attention? It is time for the Paranormal Rundown. Hello, this is Cedric Dankworth Smythe. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all fans of the paranormal, the supernatural, the unusual, the entertaining, the terrifying, the horrifying, and those things that go bump in the night and in the daytime too. This is the one and only Paranormal Rundown, where the lads, the gang of nerds, choose from over 2,700 carefully curated paranormal topics. Vicar Manson has asked that I hand the show over to him for a few moments so that he might discuss some of the impediments faced by the Paranormal Rundown recently. Vic is a relatively decent, kind, and responsible fellow, plus he's mostly house-trained, and therefore I will acquiesce to his respectful request. Take it away, Vic.
Hello, everyone. This is Vicar Manson. This makes the second Paranormal Rundown episode in a row where we've been a little bit late. I hate that. We've sort of made a contract with our audience, which is growing, to release on the 1st and the 15th of every month. But life gets in the way, and just to make sure that blame falls where it should, that's mostly been my fault. I've simply had family members who were ill, other things that came up, things I simply could not ignore, and things that took too much time away from me being able to get this show out on time. Dave Griffith did a fantastic job of making sure that the previous episode was released not too late, so I'm doubling down, telling you that the next episode will be out on time. We should have some guests coming up also, some you've never heard and some that are Paranormal Rundown repeats. Tonight, we cover, something like 20 overall topics, looking at icons and idols, discussing whether prayer is the same thing as worship. We'll be going back to the Princeton Egg Experiments. We have a psychopathic billionaire who wants Dave to be part of the non-living. We'll be talking about haunted objects from thrift stores, cursed money, a demonic rabbit that I once had, and much, much more. The title of the show, which was established by our title master, who is Dave. Man, Dave is so good at coming up with titles, is Quantum Entanglement, Psychics, and the Probable Death of Dave. Anyway, I think that is a pretty good title. Dave's really the best at this. I hope you enjoy this show. It really does have a lot of energy. We cover a lot of things. It's the right length, which is about 2 hours for the show. And next episode will be on time. Thank you so much for returning to the Paranormal Rundown. As they say, let's get this show on the road. Hey, everybody. Let's get to the rundown.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Paranormal Rundown. Tonight, I am Father Mike Birdsong, and we are joined by my son, Deacon Josh, and Mr. Dave Griffith, and Mr. J.J. Johnson from Southern Demonology. And unfortunately tonight, Mr. Vic Hermanson, should I say Sir Vic Hermanson, will be in and out with us as he is taking care of his family through some medical needs at this time. But all is well, thank God for that. But unfortunately, he followed Alice down the rabbit hole, so he's going to be in and out. And but that's okay, as long as he don't find the demon rabbits anywhere. But this evening, we get together many times, and there's never going to fail to be a glitch somewhere. Okay, we're going to have a problem somewhere, and unfortunately, in this time, we just now figured out that we don't have our list of over 2,500 topics. So, what do we do?
Well,
So,
we do actually have
okay,
a list of 1,230 topics.
1,230 topics.
1,230 topics. This is an older version of the list. Um, but there's plenty of good topics on here, so I'm pretty sure we can come up with something.
I just sent you the other list that has it says 2075. It was on the high drive.
2000. Well, I pulled a different one off the high drive. Ah, okay. I pulled the top one thinking it was the most recent. Well, we'll go with this one.
There you go.
2075, over 2,050 topics.
So, but guys, can we start off in a? I got a crazy idea for a second. I just showed y'all my new trinket. Here comes Vic. There he is. Since we're waiting on him, let me ask a question. And we all have an idea, but I want to hear everybody's different idea and maybe even have it as a topic for tonight. But I just showed y'all my new trinket.
This is very pretty.
Very pretty. And somebody will have that up for us at the end of the show. But let's treat this as a topic and not necessarily a theological topic, but a broad-based topic. What kind of role does iconography play in our life?
Oh, I am so glad you asked that question. Can I take the first stab at that?
Yes, sir. That's what it's for.
Okay. But before you do, describe what you held up so people know what we're talking about.
This is a Saint Benedict medal. It's 2 inches, and it's on a cord, kind of a halfway rosary thing. It's got 10 decades on each side, and I'm going to be wearing it while I do blessings or exorcisms of a place or region or things like that. I'll also use it as my pictorial cross at times, and I'm going to have another one made. My son makes them and in black, but it is absolutely beautiful. And Josh, you need to make your Etsy page accessible to everyone, anywhere and everywhere, which I believe it is now. But everything that he does is handmade, and every knot is handmade. So JJ actually has 2 of them now.
Yeah, I have. I was about to say I've got a set of prayer beads and I have a rosary that Josh made, and it is Bird Songs Blessings on Etsy, and they are phenomenal. In fact, I just requested to have a similar thing to what Father Mike just held up, because that thing is amazing looking.
Right. So I mean, it's beautiful. So, but speaking of iconography, icons are not just a picture. This can be considered an icon, this medal. And JJ, I don't want to take away your thunder. You go ahead.
Back to JJ. I just wanted people to know what we were talking about before we got started.
Very important. No, so I'm going to start a little in the before times when I was raised Baptist, and I think that this is true for at least where I grew up and could very well be true for a lot of other Southern communities that are primarily Protestant in nature. And that is that anything that is Roman Catholicism is nothing but idolatry and eating babies and not Christian. And if it's essentially, if you've ever seen the old moral oral episodes that used to air on Adult Swim, it is pretty much that attitude writ large. And even though the show is trying to make a lot of fun of that attitude, I witnessed it more than a few times firsthand. Anyway, when I went off to college, so in the beginning, the answer would have been it plays no part in my life. I went to college. I began dating a Catholic girl, and she wanted to take me to mass one weekend when I was over there. And I'm like, fine. I had nothing against it, but certainly wasn't excited for it, especially when she told me I could wear blue jeans into mass. And I was like, I can do what? That's wrong. I'm not in Sunday finest. What the heck is going on? Anyway, we walked to this little church called St. Teresa's, and it's in Farmville, Virginia. And we walk up the stairs. This is before they actually rebuilt the place, but we walk up the stairs and we're about to go in, and I see a figure out of the corner of my left eye, which is my bad eye. And I just knew I was about to like bump into somebody. And I turned around and I said, "Excuse me." When I saw that it wasn't a person, because it was a heck of a lot more diminutive than an actual person, but it was an icon, a statue of St. Teresa. And something about that interaction stopped me in my tracks, because here I am, having grown up hearing about idolatry and eating babies and all the rest of it, and now I'm in the heart of this, and I run into an icon, and it doesn't feel wrong, it doesn't feel evil. In fact, I get a sense of peace from it, of wonder. It instills with me a true sense of wonder. And I go through the rest of the mass, and of course, I didn't know when to stand up, when to kneel, when to say to bless anyone. I didn't know any of the rituals, but yet, before I even sat down at the pew, I felt like I was home. And I then took a year and a half of really questing to see, is Catholicism the right choice for me? Because I knew I probably wasn't going to end up with this girl, and I didn't want this to be based upon any other feelings besides those that I have for God.
It was a wise choice.
And I came to the answer of yes, this is what I want for me, independent of if I'm still with this girl or not, which was a wise move because, yeah, we absolutely did not last. But regardless, when I got into grad school, they actually, Harvard is part of the BTI, the Boston Theological Institute, which is a set of 13 different seminaries, and you are free to take classes at any one of them. And so I did take some classes at a Catholic university, which was in the heart of Boston. And then I also took some community classes that was in Boston, I believe it was, and Ballston, not Boston, but Boston. But it was on how to paint Russian iconography.
Wow.
And you learn how to construct your own canvases from hand, how to make your own paints from egg yolks and pigments. It was beautiful. I loved every single thing about that. And so I would say the iconography, and I know this is a very long winded answer, and I'm sorry, but iconography has played a huge part of my life because it opened the door to my heart to accepting something which I have fully embraced and brought me into a tradition that I, at first, when I was young, disliked just based upon hearsay, and I would say heresy, and later found out it's right up my alley, literally.
Well, let me add a different perspective. So I grew up Protestant as well. They never really talked about Catholics eating babies, but I'm not going to say it doesn't happen.
Well, Vic, see what you just walked into?
not every week. I mean, what?
Maybe on holidays. I don't know.
They're pretty expensive these days. But
but
wait. I've never heard about Catholics eating babies. Period. Where
I think it was a joke from JJ. He was talking about the Southern Baptist or Protestant view of Catholics and icons and so on, practices, it being super non-Christian.
Now, y'all do know that really happened in Scripture, right? People boiling babies and eating them.
Well, sure, yeah.
But not Christians.
I know.
Okay. Catholics have never been known for eating babies.
And not St. John Vianney Church, I mean.
but here's the thing. So I think that there are a handful of practices in the Catholic Church that the Protestant Church has extreme problems or issues with. And icons have never been one that I have heard much of. What I hear of are idols. And they are when you see these statues and people are praying to them. Okay.
Catholics don't do that.
Oh, no. Catholics absolutely do that because I've seen it. Okay, you'll have someone at a Catholic church, and they'll go out, and there will be a statue of Mary or a statue of Saint Gabriel or a statue of whomever, and they will go out and say prayers to it. Now, the Catholics have a perspective that I understand that this is not worship. This is saying a prayer to someone who is a saint, and therefore asking a saint to pray for them or what have you. It's different than what, in the Bible is saying, worshiping idols. I get the distinction that Catholics makes, but Protestants don't make that distinction. Protestants look at it, if you're praying to something or to someone, you're worshiping them.
Okay.
But that's not an icon. That's different, right? And I don't think I ever heard issues with icons so much as the whole idol worship thing.
As and this is going beyond the subject of the icons, because JJ, I really want to get to the little white dot in their eyes to even mention what that means in an icon in just a moment. But as a long-term Protestant myself, coming to grips with, and guys, let me just go ahead and say that, I hate to use the word Catholicism because it makes this whole Catholic Protestant issue just really peeves me, because we're all Christian and we all love God.
But it's a real thing.
Well, I understand it's a real thing, but man made it a real thing. Man created the division. Uh, um, uh, Unfortunately, but when it comes to, you got to understand when it comes to prayer. Okay, there's a difference between prayer and adoration. There's a difference between prayer and veneration. Okay. To say that now I'm not saying some don't. Okay. Some people can be off the deep end, but I'm not Roman Catholic, but I'm going to take up for them for just a moment, because God knows there's a lot in the RCC that I don't agree with. But however, when someone is paying great attention to a saint, or praying the prayer of a saint, let me make it abundantly clear that they're not praying to that person. They are joining with that person in prayer, and the Holy Scriptures are full of examples of that. But I don't have time to go down that road tonight. But also, even when it comes to these statues, or even on Good Friday or Black Friday, when we have the veneration of the cross, notice what I said, the veneration. You are showing respect, and when that is done with a saint, or this statue that you were talking about, they are kneeling with that person before the throne room. They are joining themselves with that. I see you shaking your head. I'm saying
Look,
that's how it. I'm saying that's how it should have been done.
You can run around in circles all day long.
I'm saying that's how it should be done.
I've heard it before, but when you kneel in front of a statue of Mary,
well, I will agree to a prayer. I will.
Mary,
you're not
Mary,
praying to Mary, though. You're not praying to Mary.
You are.
No, you're asking for prayer. There's a difference between
if you're
praying
asking Mary.
Dave, I don't think it's even possible. To pray to Mary.
What is the definition of prayer?
Oh, Heavenly Dave, please, if I did so, it would be utterly useless.
And the definition of prayer is nothing more than just talking to God. But in an act of worship. You're not worshiping Mary. You're not praying. Why does the Scripture remind us that we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses that pray before the throne room of God all times? Why does it say that we join our voices with angels and archangels in all the company of heaven? Is that right? Is the Scripture wrong?
Father Mike,
I'll agree to disagree.
I am not talking about Scripture. I am talking about people.
But listen to me. Like I said, Dave, some people take it too far, and that's what I don't agree with. Some people.
I'm going to give you one example that's going to blow all of your argument out of the water.
Some people look to Mary for salvation. Some people look to Mary for salvation. That's wrong.
Yes. What do you and JJ say at the beginning of the class that we have on the Saturdays?
Prayer to Saint Michael.
The prayer
to Saint Michael.
I know.
But what's the prayer asking? What's the prayer asking?
I know, but what is the title of it?
Okay.
All right. It's a prayer to Saint Michael.
Now, it is a conversation.
You may call it a conversation, but even the church calls it the prayer to Saint Michael. You are praying to someone to help you. And you are not praying, in that case, you're not praying for them to say, hey, go ask God to help me with this. You're asking them to do that.
Why does the Scripture tell us to communicate with the angels? Why do we have the right to call upon them? But that is not the idea of prayer in the way that you and I understand it. That is a conversation. That is a request. That is not the act of veneration or worship.
I get the difference between worship and prayer. Okay. I said that up front.
Well, we can play word games all night.
Any Protestant out there is going to view that as prayer. Well, some will call it worship. Okay.
Well,
But I will at least acknowledge it as prayer because that is what the church is saying that it is.
Well, can I jump in?
Sure.
First off, has some of that background noise gone away?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
good.
right up.
Okay, well, that's because I'm sleeping in a room with a window air conditioner, and
nothing like it.
Well, don't sit in a hot room if
No. It's fine. It's everything is cooled off for the day. It's not so crazy hot today.
Well, I'm willing to put up with background noise if it means that you're comfortable. I'll just put it that way.
I agree. Thank you, JJ. I've had the same. JJ, Dave, you've heard me address the same issue. Okay, Why is it called the prayer to Saint Michael? Why is it called now? But there are linguistic issues here. Okay,
Yes.
so for instance, if you committed certain minor crimes, there's a legal maneuver you can use called prayer for judgment.
And that's what all I was meaning. There's different linguistic issues in that word because it transcends time and areas.
I mean, it's essentially a plea of, yeah, you know I'm guilty, I know I'm guilty, but I'm asking for the court to be lenient anyway.
Okay, who's that prayer going to?
It's going to the judge. It's going to the judge. And it's not a prayer in the same light as you would be praying to God. Now,
so is this within a religious context or within a...
No, you could go down and make a prayer for judgment in any court in your county tomorrow.
Okay, secular terminology versus religious.
Secular terminology versus religious.
I'm not going to argue that.
But in support of what you've said, because I was sitting here thinking about it, particularly in Mexico, in rural Mexico, I have seen people behave in a way where it seemed very much to me that they were praying directly to a statue.
Yeah, so have I.
You know, it seemed, now, it wasn't, gosh, you've got this tiny little Mexican woman. I'm not going to go up there and say, hey, you, who are you praying to? That first off gets you beat up in Mexico.
Would be appropriate anyway.
Rightfully wouldn't be appropriate. But yes, I think there are probably people who have, what can I say, maybe a childlike, naive view of their religion where I can pray to God, I can pray to Jesus, and I can pray to any of a number of different proxies for them. I think in their mind, they are simply seeing this as an extension of the Godhead. At least that's what I think is going on, because I've never really taken the time to talk to any of these people. Everybody I've ever seen who was doing that was very, very meek, very small, very innocent. They were not the kind of people trying to figure out a way around the rules. They just were, their entire life, they had seen these statues in the church, which are part of what's called the Via Pulchritudina, I believe, which means the way of beauty, and that there are multiple ways that humans can be brought to God. One of them being the Via Pulchritudina, meaning let's make our churches beautiful places where humans can come in and feel safe and nurtured, and maybe that will help them come to God. But so I'm going to have to say that Dave has an absolute point in that some people take prayer beyond what I do. But I don't think they are necessarily engaging in idolatry. I think they're engaging in, this is just what I've done since I've been a girl.
Well, hold on. So if you grew up praying to the golden lamb.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But it's all you knew and you were just trying to do good, it's still idolatry. Praying to a physical statue of some sort is idolatry.
Well, I was watching Dr. Temple and his wife love The Chosen. They just watch it over and over and over and over again.
Oh, I do too.
I think this is probably the 6th or 8th viewing they've had of it. And I've never really been able to watch it. But
It's real good.
Jesus is at the well with the Samaritan woman, and she says something like, "You mean I can pray without a mountain? You mean I can pray without a temple?" And he says,
That's right.
God is spirit. You can pray anytime, anywhere, any way you wish, so long as you're praying to God.
Right.
Now, I think the little lady in the Mexican church, which are incredibly strange places because they love to focus on the violence of the crucifixion. I mean, the whole dang church is filled with blood and guts and gore. But I do believe that in her heart, all of these prayers are going to God. Somehow she just sort of sees this statue as a conduit. And that's a gray area. I don't know if that would fall into the realm of idolatry or not. I'm glad I don't have to make those judgments.
Fair enough. Let me ask one question, and then I'll let this bone go.
I think it's interesting.
If you are talking directly to someone who is no longer of this world, whether they were never of this world, like an angel, or a demon, God forbid, or a person who has passed.
Wouldn't that always all fall under necromancy?
Okay, so you're calling prayers to Mary necromancy. I'm not saying interactive talking. I'm talking about asking someone something directly. So if there is a prayer and you ask Mary to spread her mantle of protection over you.
I couldn't ask Mary that.
Why not?
Because Mary doesn't have that mantle of protection.
The only thing Mary has is a voice.
That is
in a word.
All throughout Father Ripperger's prayers for the laity.
Yeah.
Okay. There are prayers that are used by exorcists. There's prayers that are published as Catholic prayers that have direct asking of someone, a saint, whether they be an angel or a human,
now
do something.
Now there's difference between asking angels to do something and asking the saints that's gone before us to do something. The saints that have gone before us, and this is not the hyper point of view, okay? But the quote unquote prayer, there's different terms for the word prayer when it comes to linguistic style, like Vic was talking about earlier. Now, most of the time, when we are invoking the attention of the saints that have gone before us, the great crowd of witnesses, or great cloud of witnesses, excuse me, and those in the elders that are before the throne, in the cherubim and the seraphim, we are joining our voices with them. And when we invoke one of the angels to, like Saint Michael, to be our protection, we're asking him to do his office, asking him to do his job. And we have authority to do that. When we are talking, having a conversation, the word prayer also means, correct me if I'm wrong, JJ, to converse. We're not venerating them or worshiping them. We're having communication with them. Hey, help me too. Cry out for me. Intercede for me. Do your job. That's what they do. The saints that have gone before us, those that have spilt their blood before us and become martyrs, they are to intercede for us and to help us. That is why the great angel or the strong angel of the Lord took the great bowl of incense and thrust it down to the earth, which represented the prayers and the praise of the saints. Now, I'm with you, David. There's some weird Catholics out there, okay? And they do stuff that is not right. But I'm saying the way it should be and the way it should be looked at. But unfortunately, a lot of the Marianism comes from the United States.
Yes, it does.
And not other countries. So, somewhere down the line, just like everything went wacko in any other kind of denomination, that went wacko in the Roman Catholic Church.
Well, I can remember going through an extra round of what's it called, RCIA,
RCIA, yeah,
RCIA.
Roman Catholic initiation or something like that.
Yeah, and I did it not because I really needed to. I just wanted to go back and refresh my mind with everything that they did. And one of the people that was teaching the class was someone who really wanted Mary to be named co-redemptrix.
Yeah,
co-redemptrix with Jesus.
That almost came a thing, by the way.
And I can remember talking to him, and there was a nun there too that wanted that. We almost came to blows. I had to say to him, "Look, we fundamentally disagree on this, and I could never support that change in the church." And then he would say things like, "Well, even if the magisteria said, this is the change. Let's say that the Pope stands up and speaks ex cathedra, that Mary is now co-redemptrix. I'm not sure I could deal with that."
Mm-hmm. Well, see, even going back to icons, JJ, I always get them confused. So you're going to have to answer this question. Even with the icons, which are windows into heaven, they're painted to help you focus. That's what they're for. Just like the rosary beads to help you focus and pay attention. That's all that's for. But in the icons of between Mary versus Jesus, JJ, I always get this mixed up. Is Mary clothed with the blue with the white sash, or clothed with the white with the blue sash most of the time? The reason for that
it's
blue. She's clothed. It shows that she's being clothed in righteousness with Christ's royalty upon her. Christ is the royal with the white around it because he is already fully God and fully man. Something like that. Correct me if you know what I'm talking about, JJ.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
What you talking about, JJ?
but in other words, there's a distinct difference. Even with her in the icons, the way she's painted fully human, clothed in righteousness. She's not the righteous one. That's Christ. She's made righteous by Christ. That's why she wears the sash.
Yeah, and again, I don't have problems with the iconography. I think the religious art and representing things is gorgeous.
Oh, exactly. But see, but this is what I'm saying. The purpose of these objects, their purpose has been miscued and abused and done incorrectly. I'm with you on that. I was only trying to say the sole purpose of them for the beginning. That's all I was saying.
Can I tell you a story from the Protestant side?
Oh, I got plenty of them. Go ahead.
You've got plenty of them concerning idolatry.
Oh, yeah. I could make up some stuff, man.
Well, there was a church in Kentucky that was there around where my sister lived, and I think this made it into the paper, so I may be able to find it on newspapers. But they started having a phenomenon in that church where the younger people, for some reason, they started, when they were sitting in the pews, they started stamping their feet at an incredible rate, and pretty soon you'd hear the entire church, reverberating with these feet stamping. And the minister in the church started talking about, the stamping of your feet is a manifestation of the Lord. And that many of these people, especially these kids, kind of began worshiping, if not their feet directly, at least the action of stamping their feet so hard. And started thinking of, this is getting deep into the weird category to me, in that I can't imagine anyone actually worshiping their feet, but I can see someone saying that I've been deeply blessed by God because I have the foot stamping manifestation. Where would you place something like that?
Emotionalism.
Right along with tongues.
Right along with tongues.
Now there's a difference there, but
wait. I want to know more about that word emotionalism. I don't exactly know what that means in a religious context.
Go with me and JJ to an old-timey Pentecostal church one day, and we'll show you what emotionalism is.
Well, I've seen it.
Okay, that's what I'm talking.
I've seen it. I mean, every Sunday in the ED, starting about 10:30, you'd get all these 16-year-old black girls into the church they'd been getting happy. That was the term they used, getting happy. And they got too happy, and they'd come in hyperventilating and passing out.
All right, key word you just said there. There was a manifestation brought among themselves, and it caused them physical harm.
Okay.
That's emotionalism.
Okay. Don't normally see that in a Catholic church.
No.
Although I do know there are Catholic churches, though, aren't there now, that kind of focus on the extreme physical form of worship?
There was and is still a charismatic renewal in the Roman Catholic Church.
Okay.
But it does not go way beyond the Pentecostal holiness style.
Okay.
But yes. I think John Michael Talbot was a part of the charismatic renewal of the Catholic Church.
He was a singer, wasn't he?
Yes. Great.
He was.
Great.
He also founded his own monastic order.
I've got some
well.
John Michael Talbot CDs.
Yeah. The Lord's Supper was one of the greatest ones.
Okay. Beautiful voice.
Yeah.
But you don't even see that type of what you're calling emotionalism. You don't see that in the majority of the Protestant churches either.
No.
Right.
Well, you see it in the Protestant churches that are like Pentecostal, which is the PHC, the Pentecostal Holiness Church,
mm-hmm.
the Holiness Church, the Congregational Holiness Church. Any of those types. Some what I call Bapticostals can be all out there.
What was that term? Bapticostals?
Bapticostal.
I like that.
One good example was I went to a men's conference at one of our local Baptist churches with a friend, and there was one part where the quote unquote associate pastor got up on stage and had his friend whip him with a belt trying to impersonate Christ.
Weird, useless.
Yeah.
Yep.
Would that fall into the?
I would put that in the attention-seeking category.
Exactly.
Yeah, but what's the what is it that the monks used to do when they would flog themselves? What did they call that?
Autoflagellation.
Yeah.
Autoflagellation. I wonder if that would fall borderline into that.
It might. Or the
what, the hair shirts, the camel, what kind of, they wore some kind of shirt that was particularly
extremely
Camel hair.
scratchy. Yeah.
Camel
Yeah.
hair.
Yeah.
camel hair shirt.
I don't know.
Well, we've wandered all over this.
New topic.
How did you guys come up with the first topic? You just grabbed an old rundown list or something, or what?
No, Josh made me a beautiful, beautiful necklace, and we got on the subject of icons,
Oh, look at that. Yeah. Uh-huh.
and so we went from there. But JJ was talking about his classes he had in iconography as well.
Iconography?
Yeah, iconography.
Okay.
I can't even say
There
the word.
is a path we could take this that is not Christian. Well, I mean, it may have some notes to it that stays within the same topic if you guys are interested in.
That's up to y'all.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that is-
I want to hear what you have to say.
So when you think of the St. Benedict's medal, you've got, something you wear. It's got symbology on it. It's got writing on it. It's got meaningful representative text on it in terms of initials of the exorcism and all that. But you have all throughout other religions similar things.
Yes, you do.
You have pentagrams that are worn. You have the Eye of Horus. You have the Ankh. You have, I mean, there's all kinds. So what is the power that these things have?
Very good question. And the question that I was trying to come up with was, what are the religions that place actual divine power on earthly temporal objects?
Yeah, that's a great way of wording it.
Here's my AirPod case. This is now the holy divine AirPod case.
Yes, in the Church of Jobs.
In the Church of Jobs. I mean, but there must be religions where people are carrying around a thing in their hand with the belief that that thing has some actual divine power.
Well, I would dare go to say that they do have a power, because everything that we look at, let's take this point of view, whether it be Christianity or Muslim or Hindu or whatever, everything that we, and even in nature, everything that we do or act upon is upon a sign or symbol. Think about it. Think about it. Now, JJ can talk about Japan, but let's just take the Christian church, for instance. You have sacraments, and then you have what's called sacramentums. And those sacramentums, this is a sacramentum. The holy water is a sacramentum.
Yes.
The crucifix is a sacramentum. It is a blessed sign or symbol that has been consecrated unto God for a specific purpose. That's what it is. And that's why it carries its weight, because it's been invoked, or that ruach, as JJ said, has been breathed upon that object. That's why we partake of Holy Eucharist. That's why that we believe it is the real presence of Christ in that body and in that cup of wine.
And that is no different than a dagger and a candle and a cup that sits on a witchcraft altar.
Exactly. Same difference. And same effect. Same difference, opposite effects.
So I'm examining my mind, as I think we all should do occasionally, to determine if I can come to some memory of ever creating an idol out of something in a church. I can't remember directly doing that. probable that I have, especially early on in my journey through the church. What about you? What about anyone else? Can you think of a time when you've behaved in a way that could be thought of as being idolatrous? It's Paranormal Rundown confession time.
Well, I would dare say to go as far as this. I mean, whether we agree or not, but just from our makeup of who we are going to worship something or someone. Something is going to affect us. Something is going to drive us. Me
going to have to serve somebody.
Exactly. And you know, it's just like I tell people all the time. If something has gotten to the point to where it keeps you from the gathering of the people for the church, that's become your God. Whether it be a boat, a house, a motorcycle, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, anything that drags you away, that's your God. And the same goes with anything. We're gonna, you know, his name just flew right out of my mind, Vic. But yeah, we're gonna worship something or somebody.
Oh, Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan, that's it.
I don't remember his actual name. But
okay, I want to give two definitions here.
Okay.
The first definition that comes up here that just is within a Christian's perspective here of idolatry is the worship of someone or something other than God as though it were God.
Okay.
Now that's interesting because if you say prayers to a statue of Mary, I don't think anyone in the Catholic faith believes that statue is Mary.
Not that I know of.
So it may be a gray area from that definition. The statue becomes a focus to say those prayers to, but is not Mary itself. So probably not fits under that definition. Now, the Wikipedia definition of idolatry is the worship of a cult image or idol as though it were a deity. That maybe could be more construed as idolatry, right? Because it's sort of representing the person that you're asking for something from. And so you're worshiping it as though it were that deity or person.
Have you ever seen... Well, first off, this is not the appropriate time to ask this question. You haven't finished your thoughts yet.
No, I have other thoughts, but they're not necessarily about this. So go ahead.
Well, I mean, I don't know anybody stupid enough to think that the golden calf is actually God.
Right.
Okay. I don't know anybody that's stupid.
Correct.
Doesn't mean they're not out there. I just haven't met them.
Right. It was a representation of God.
It was a representation of God.
Which is why the second definition of this, I think, more closely fits what we would consider idolatry. Correct. Not that the statue is Mary, but that the statue represents Mary to whom you are praying.
With the understood risk of really pissing off certain people, I can see how an argument could be made that even the Eucharist falls into that category to a certain degree.
Well, the Eucharist would fall into that category in the first definition, because the Eucharist is actually becoming Christ.
Right. You're
and
saying,
therefore you're worshiping it as it is God.
Right. And the way they've kind of gotten around that, I think, is by using the term the real presence.
Transubstantiation or real presence, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Real presence. Okay, and so that's a vague enough term to where a lot of people aren't going to become upset about that.
Well, I go all the way. It is. Jesus said, unless you eat of my flesh or drink of my blood, you have no life in you.
Correct. And he didn't say, this is representational of my body.
No, he didn't. He was the man who became the lamb.
Right. He said, this is my body.
I'm not going to be baited into that rabbit hole. We have a whole nother podcast on that one. Yes. Well, so, but to the point, the difference there is that is not something that persists.
Correct.
Okay? So the idea is this is a temporary thing that actually has transformed into God, and therefore it is. So in this case, it's not an idol because it actually is God. And that is what the tradition is. It's not something that persists that you go, oh, pray to your God to this statue over here every time you come to the church. No, it's something that's being consumed, saying that it is God. So I mean, yeah, maybe it's a gray area, but you're right. It could be seen that way.
I'd like to end this on a fun, positive note. Have any of you guys seen the Dragnet Christmas special?
No.
No.
Remember the old Dragnet show? Bum,
Absolutely.
Bum, 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 bum. And then you'd say, my name is Friday. I work in the city.
Yeah.
Just the facts, man.
Just the fact, man. Which I think is one of those things he never said. But anyway, the Christmas special is there's a Hispanic church out somewhere in Los Angeles, and the baby Jesus has been stolen from the creche. And so the priest, this very humble, godly, dedicated man, calls the police, and they come out. What's happened, Father? Well, someone stole our baby Jesus. And so Friday and his partner just, they pull out all the stops. They stole a baby Jesus. We're going to find this baby Jesus. Let's go to every pawn shop. Let's go to every religious article store. Let's find this baby Jesus. No matter what they do, they can't find this baby Jesus. And finally, they come back to talk to the father and say, hey, look, we've done our best, but we can't find it. And right at that time, the back door of the church opens, and this little Hispanic boy that they must have gone through, hundreds of little boys to find the most angelic looking little boy, who, walks in with his wagon and very carefully cradled in this wagon and, old towels and things like that is the baby Jesus. And he says, he comes up and the priest says, Miguel, why did you take the baby Jesus? Well, I've wanted a new wagon for a long time, and I prayed to Jesus every day to bring me a new wagon. And I made him the promise that if he got me a new wagon, he would get the first ride.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he takes the baby Jesus, puts it in the wagon, takes him all around town, then brings the baby Jesus back.
That's great.
And so that kind of innocence in worship, I believe, is what I was encountering in Mexico.
Probably.
With these little ladies, that kind of, it's just this childlike, loving worship with no thought of doing anything idolatrous.
Yeah, and again, I think the Protestant perspective is not that there is not good intent here; it's that people can be misled.
Yes, I agree,
and that's the issue. I want to drag it back to where I was trying to go with the not religious aspect of this, which is things that hold power or value that are icons no matter what religion you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a religious perspective that says, hey, maybe this gets power from demonic, right? It's been consecrated to some demonic entity that is claiming to be a god, and therefore that's where it gets its power from.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another perspective that has to do with quantum physics.
Okay.
Shot who? What'd you call me?
Yeah.
JJ, help a brother out. They talking something about me, man.
Has to do with quantum physics. So, and we've had lots of conversations on this concept in the past, but the idea that there is a probabilistic nature of the universe at the subparticle level, or right at the particle level, at the sub-molecular level, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that probability can be influenced by intent, where you have people who are focused on making, the Princeton eggs go to even numbers or to odd numbers, and having the values being spit out change based on their intent beyond a statistical probability, indicating that there is ways to muck around with the probabilities that the universe is built on. Okay.
Okay.
With me so far?
I'm with you conceptually. I'm not sure where this is going toward idolatry.
Not idolatry, iconography.
Okay.
Okay. So we talk about a
Windows of heaven. Okay, I'm with you now.
we talk about
yeah.
a pentagram.
Or yeah.
Okay. Let's say I am a practicing witch. I get a silver pentagram and I wear it every day. And I say spells over that pentagram and imbue it with powers to bring me good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I'm wearing it, I have better luck than I would before. So now, would you call that an icon? It's a medallion, right? It's no different than the St. Benedict medal in this case. Right?
I would, like I said earlier, I would put that in the classification like a icon, because it is an object that is serving a purpose. Just like the icons are, they are an object that are the Christian icons. Okay, they are like JJ and I were talking about. They're considered the windows or the eyes into the heavenly realm. Okay, same principle as the witchcraft pendants or the little vials of oil that the Wiccans wear.
Okay, so we're talking about the same thing. Perfect.
Yeah, same thing.
All right.
And we can denote that all the way back to the same purpose as just as you can place a curse on a person,
mm-hmm.
you can curse an
So
object.
a hex bag would be another example of
Exactly.
one of these, right? You
Exactly.
got your chicken foot, you got your,
same principle.
Possum teeth and, a little bit of bacon wrapped up in it.
Go for dust.
Exactly. So now I have imbued this through some spiritual practice.
Okay.
To bring me luck. Or maybe even not through a spiritual practice, through some sort of psychic mental practice, where over and over again I am focused and meditating on this object. Bring me luck, bring me luck, bring me luck. Okay. And now I'm carrying this thing around and I have good luck when I'm carrying it. Is it possible that through some spiritual or psychic process that the molecules, the particles in that item are interfering with the standard probabilities of all the particles around me and causing them to break in my favor?
You watched Quantum Leap, didn't you?
I did.
When we talk about quantum physics, might as well bring up Quantum Leap. Wasn't that same process? If I say beam me up, Scotty, am I invoking quantum physics?
I don't actually know what quantum physics Quantum Leap was using.
I don't know. I just thought it was funny to say it.
It was just, it was kind of like a time tunnel thing, wasn't it? Where he'd get in big trouble in one universe and then hop to another.
Oh, he would
guess
solve,
that there
he
may
would
have been
solve
some
somebody's
quantum
problem and then wind
entanglement
up into
involved
another
there
person.
or something. I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, Vic, what do you think? The reason I ask,
Well, I think
there is clearly lots
here's what-
of practices that have these items, and people experience stuff that happens with it.
Yes,
And
they do.
is the intent or the spiritual practice or something causing things to change at potentially a quantum level?
Well, one of the few experiments in anything in the paranormal realm that has genuinely yielded statistically meaningful results really can't be that can't be debunked in terms of, are these results statistically significant? Because they are the Princeton Egg Experiments.
Right.
Okay. That you see and continue to see over and over these big perturbations in random number distribution. And they always happen right about the same time as some event. Now, there's no way they happen before the event. Okay, so that's one of the things that is really interesting to me is with 9/11, for instance. The biggest perturbation they've ever seen was with 9/11. And it happened prior to the event. Okay, and to me that means that it means possibly that there's some discontinuity in the way the time flows. Okay, where part of our consciousness may be here, part of our consciousness may be somewhere in the future. Don't know about that. All I know is that you do get these perturbations. So I don't think there's any reason to say that it couldn't happen. I just kind of feel like the reason that it happens with humans is because as soon as 9/11 happens, then the entire planet is thinking about it. You know, you've got billions upon billions of people thinking about this event. Hard for me to see how you could endow an object with that same kind of energy that would come from all those billions of minds.
Hey, one thing that I always go back to, in JJ, I'll need you to answer this one. I'm always taken back to where you were talking about the evil eye in Japan on the train. If somebody does something, whatever, all of a sudden they get, all of a sudden they get this evil eye thing, and bad things starts happening to them. And I'm like, well, first of all, they didn't even know what they were doing, but all this stuff happens. But can the same thing in Japan on the same level of quote unquote the evil eye be put into an object and given to someone, and same things happen?
Oh,
I think that's what we're talking about.
yeah. Well, I mean, just to answer that question real quick, the answer is yes. In fact, within Turkish versions of Islam, you will find pretty prevalent concepts that, because a lot of people in that region love to hang up eyes of Horus. And there's very traditional priests in that area that view that to be nothing more than a true manifestation of the evil eye, especially of the demonic. So people, at least priests, absolutely believe that that symbol is the personification of the evil eye. And even in more ancient times, this kind of shows a little bit of prehistory racism, but within the Ethiopic language, at least the classical Ethiopic or Ge'ez, there is a word for evil eye, and that is Buddha. And that's because there is a belief that Buddhists could easily cast the evil eye upon people.
Really?
Why? Yeah. Why? I do not know. But
well, isn't that kind of the same thing as, Jews drinking baby's blood or something? Let's just say something bad about the Buddhists.
Pretty much, yeah. And they're not the first ones to do that. I mean, heck, when when Buddhism first entered into China, then they were slaughtered by the thousands. And that's because, Lao Tzu, when he disappeared, he went south. And when Buddhism began to erupt from India, then the Chinese that first encountered it thought that Lao Tzu went to India. They misinterpreted all of his philosophies and had corrupted it. And that's what Buddhism was. That's not true, but yet that was the idea at the time. But going back to the whole probability thing, now that I know what the heck you're talking about, within quantum physics, there is this idea that the observer, that, electrons or any other types of particles are in constant flux until an observer locks them into play.
Yes.
Even when you're looking at models of molecules, what we used to think of as there is an orbit for an electron is actually a cloud, and it's not until you look at it then it's actually locked into play.
Right.
So perhaps that is locking. This is a complete stretch. So
I don't think it's a stretch.
No, I don't need. You're talking about the power of observation.
Yeah.
I mean, the power of perception and observation to some degree changes the universe. Demonstrably changes the universe.
So the observation is what causes it to go from that waveform to a particle.
Correct.
Okay. But that follows a probability model. There's probabilities of what that particle could do. It is not always going to form itself in the same spot.
Correct.
Okay.
And honestly, there's a lack of there's the uncertainty principle. If you know the location, then you're not going to know the spin, vice versa. So
Right.
there's always something.
Well, there are all kinds of uncertainty pairings, but yeah, you can only know one.
So the idea here is there's the studies that Vic is talking about where these random number generators stop becoming so random when there's major events in the world. But there's other studies, and specifically by Rupert Sheldrake, okay, where and you used to be able to buy a random number generator on his website, and he stopped making them.
I wonder why.
I think he stopped doing massive tests, sort of crowdsourced tests.
Was it a true random number generator, or was it a?
I don't know enough about it.
Okay.
I don't know if it was as complex as a Princeton Egg, but my understanding is this was a random number generator. This was certainly close to that level of randomness. And he would run these tests, and people would sit in the room, and he would say, okay, I want you all to focus on even numbers. And then the randomness would now skew towards evens.
How much?
Statistically significant.
Okay.
I don't remember the amount.
Okay.
And you would skew towards odds if they focused on odds. There also, interestingly enough, were people who did the reverse. They would focus on even numbers, and it would skew to odds.
You get a lot of odds.
And
Dave, if you don't know the exact p-value of that, then it's not valid.
Yeah, but with the
joke.
the skewing to odds, I'm thinking, hey, somebody want to get Bubba out of the room?
No, I have helped my wife enough with meta-analyses that she's had to do for her master's program that the whole p-value thing is just, oh God, I hate it.
It gets really irritating.
Yes, it does.
Well, now I've seen this, by the way, the reverse effect in Paranormal Investigating, right? I've seen people who will walk into a room and ask questions and nothing will happen.
Everything shuts up.
everything just shuts down. There's no interaction whatsoever. They leave, and it's all chatter, and all kinds of things happen. So I think that's probably a similar kind of effect.
One time,
But he's a a university, runs a program, does all the science. I mean, these were real results. These are not
he's got meaningful credentials for doing this kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so then if you take that and you go, all right, if you can affect the random number generator by focus, can you affect how those waveforms resolve into particles or what happens at the quantum level? And if you can do that, then can you create an icon that will have that effect without even thinking about it, because it is imbued with a certain amount of energy or focus?
So it's entangled with the mind that made it for whatever reason. See, right. I think my feeling is, and this is 100% unsupported by anything verifiable or in any way scientifically valid. If people can do these kind of things, they can't do it deliberately. They can't do it repeatedly. They might not even know they're going to do it. So, for instance, I really wish I could remember the names of sci-fi stories that I've read over the years. Because I remember the story 100%. Just can't remember the name of it. Mm-hmm. Can't remember the title. And so the story is that there are people born who have this tremendous ability to affect things with their mind. And generally what they can affect is the health of other people. And most of the time, they end up in foster situations because they kill their parents. They're, the first time their parent says, no, Billy, you cannot put the axe to the wall, or no, Billy, you cannot put the cat in the oven. Well, Billy turns around and zaps him, gives him the whammy, and suddenly you've got a dead parent, and they end up in all these bad homes. And so the tenet of the story was that the foster home situation ends up just making these people more and more powerful over time. And that they're actually responsible for a lot of death and mayhem.
That sounds sort of like the beginning of X-Men.
Yes, it does kind of sound like the beginning of X-Men. but here's what came to my mind. Let's say you have a really, really bizarre billionaire. A guy like Elon Musk, a guy like Jeff Bezos, someone who's got
more money.
Almost nothing really matters to them as far as money goes. He's like, I think I'm going to spend $12,500,000 today. Doesn't even mean anything. But what I'm going to spend it on is I'm going to contact 500,000 people that I've had answer an ad, and I've vetted them a little bit, and I'll pay them $25 to focus on one thing for 10 minutes. Most of them aren't going to be able to focus for an hour or a day. I just want them to focus for 10 minutes, and I want them to focus on Dave dying.
Why me? You could have picked JJ. You could have picked Father Mike. I mean, come on. What did I do?
But that's what I want them to focus on.
Josh said you're talking about Lex Luthor.
The guy's name is Dave Dave, and I want you to focus, on him dying in the next 10 minutes. Let's even put another layer on this. Let's say that he gives you the chance to get $1 billion if you accept him. He doesn't send the communication out until he gets your permission to do so. But the carrot, okay, your motivation for doing so is the fact that you get $1 billion.
If nobody can do it?
No, you get $1 billion. He's going to give you $1 billion. Here you go, straight up. Taxes paid, $1 billion. Now I'm going to send him my communication, and 500,000 people are going to concentrate for 10 minutes on you dying. Would you take the $1 billion?
No.
Neither would I.
And for the record, ladies and gentlemen, we will be interviewing a new host for the Rundown in 2 weeks. So please be on the lookout for an email, or if you're interested, feedback at paranormalrundown.com.
Look, it's one of these weird mental things I come up with. One of these weird mental games, like the arbiter of truth. What if you just found yourself and the guy knocks on your door? Hey, Dave, got a deal for you.
Well, I was about to say, that's like the old classic Twilight Zone. You get a salesman that comes in, puts a box down on the table, has a big red button on it, says, if you push this, you're going to get X amount of money, but some random person in the world is going to die. And there's a lot of like pretty funny skits on TikTok and other places in which the guy starts to propose the deal, and the person just hits the button and just keeps hitting the button over and over.
Well, my thought is that there are lots of people that have objects in their life
that they worship,
that have effects. And
I think
where they come
right.
from, I don't know. How they work, I don't know. But it would be interesting to know if they work at a quantum level through intent and probability manipulation.
Dave, you come up with some really beautiful questions.
If only there were really beautiful ansers.
Yes.
Well, and Dave, that is why you have to die. I am.
At 2, JJ?
At 2, JJ.
I couldn't.
Father Mike, come on, man. Show me some love, Josh. Pitch in for me here.
How about
I just got to give you last rites.
I am totally screwed. Okay, I think we need to pick a different topic.
Yeah, how about a new topic, guys? I've got one. I've got a list up here right now. If anybody wants to, or Dave, you're looking at something. Have you got a rundown list you want to use?
I pulled up an older list, but pull yours. You got it.
Well,
you're here.
Let's do a new thing. Let's have dueling lists. I'll read mine. You read yours, and may the best list win.
Now, which one of y'all gonna think odd and which one's even?
Well, I'm going to start.
Y'all, before we do that, can I go say hi to Bel Felgor? He is really knocking.
Sure,
on the
yes,
door.
he's lonesome and sad.
Accurate.
I'll be put together my list.
He needs you. Okay, and we should do this dramatically. Drum roll, please, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first Dueling Paranormal Rundown Lists. I've created a list. Dave has created a list. We're going to figure out which one is the all-time champion of Paranormal Rundown lists. I will start.
And the loser dies, right?
The loser dies with whoever, as long as they can finance the $25 per person. Okay, topic 1. Why do we lie even when other people know we are lying? Topic 2. Human-robot marriage. Topic 3, aliens working with the government. Topic 4, human levitation. Topic 5, living Neanderthals. Topic 6, protective Bigfoot encounters.
I'm screwed.
Wow.
Dave, I think you got a good shot at this because I didn't like any of those.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, I'll hope here. Topic number 7. Flying organic rods.
Ooh, I like that.
Topic number 8. Dog suicide bridge.
I like that.
Topic
like
number
that.
9. Ability dowsing.
We've talked about
Could
dowsing before.
tie into that previous conversation that we just
Yes, it
had.
could. Mm-hmm.
Topic number 10.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sometimes they come back. Return of the Beloved Dead.
Mm.
Topic number 11, spirits inhabiting objects or possessed objects.
Ooh, I like that one.
And topic number 12, Brotherhood of the Snake.
Wow.
Well, so I say, since you and I came up with the topics, that JJ and Father Mike, and maybe Josh could be the tiebreaker.
I was going to say, I'll be the tiebreaker if you want, but I guess that's not fair.
I kind of like. I kind of like spirits inhabiting objects.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
Well, I'll start.
Does that mean I don't die?
It means you don't. Yeah, but I'm hosed, man.
Yes.
Been nice knowing you guys.
No, because none of us have the money to
That's
hire
right.
the
Been
500,000
nice
for
knowing.
you.
As soon as you come up with 12.5, 12,000,005, I'm gone. But I used to have a strange little hobby of digging through Facebook and joining bizarre groups. And there are some truly, truly bizarre Facebook groups out there.
Amen.
And so one day I made the thought, haunted dolls. Bet you there's a Facebook haunted doll group.
Oh,
Just
more
one?
than you can shake it, stick it.
And so I just went up and typed, haunted dolls, and I found one, and I posted, hey, I'd like to join this group. It's haunted dolls. And they even gave you a questionnaire. Do you have any experience with haunted dolls? And I will admit that I lied. And I said, well, I hadn't up until yesterday, but now I have. And there was where I live in one of the support buildings. There's a guy who puts weird stuff in the window. And one of the things that he put in the window that time was this little black-haired doll with kind of a gingham dress. And somebody had taken it and smashed it with a shovel and poured fake blood over it and cut its heart out. It was a pretty horrifying looking thing. But I lied, and I said, yes, I encountered this doll, and I'm absolutely certain that it's haunted. Whenever I'm around this doll, it's I can hear it whispering, and man, this was an evil thing for me to do. This was just almost on the lines of the story I told you of the girls having a seance. And this is something that I will never do again. When you are around vulnerable people and you feed their vulnerability, my God, they will just jump all over you. And I don't mean in a negative way. It's like, oh, I'm so glad that you came to this group. And we know that this is a haunted doll. And then there would be people saying, there were people saying things like, well, I'm a psychic and I can feel the spirit of this doll. And all I was doing was lying. There was nothing true about this at all. I was behaving in a very bad manner. This was something I should not have been doing. But I did. And I was amazed at the not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands of people who saw my post and believed immediately that that was a haunted doll, offering me money for the haunted doll, offering me assistance in dealing with the haunted doll, offering me instruction on how to best maximize the quality of the life of the haunted doll. So these people were very serious.
Was that your version of the total happiness package, Vic?
Pretty much. It was a bad. It was a bad thing of me to do. I mean, I don't feel proud about these things, but it did happen. And what I learned in that is that there are a lot of people out there who are absolutely convinced that the world is full of truly haunted dolls.
That's because it is. But go ahead.
And they, I'm not saying it's not, but I should not have been playing with their feelings there. That was wrong of me. But man, they're deeply into it.
I
Well,
agree. That was a terrible thing to do.
Yes, I agree.
But you did not do it out of.
I did it. It was something I did out of curiosity that went way beyond what I thought it should go. What I thought. I thought maybe I would get 5 people responding, and 4 of them would be saying, "Oh, come on, man."
So how much did you make off of selling the doll?
I didn't make anything. I didn't even own the doll.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll let it slide then.
Josh, bring me my purple stole.
JJ, what were you going to say? You were leaning in for something.
yeah. So I've, in the wasteland that is Instagram, I've got quite a few different haunted doll seller accounts that are following me. And I don't have nearly enough prestige on that app to willy-nilly like block anybody. But if I was going to, it would absolutely be these carnivorous punks that try to capitalize upon that type of thing. But I'll say 2 other things real quick. The first is we've had a guest who's written an entire book on this topic, Anna Maria Manello, who wrote Haunted Heirlooms, which is a really phenomenal book that goes through some of the, excuse the language, but absolute hell that some people have gone through because of some of these antiques and artifacts that had been bought and unknowingly had something riding along inside of it. But the other thing is that when it comes to dolls, Ningen, then there's an entire subsect of Shintoism that is dedicated to breaking curses. And some of that is dealing with dolls, henna dolls that have spirits, very evil spirits that are riding inside of them. So I absolutely believe it to be true.
There is something about the form of a doll that seems to be attracted to, I would say, both human spirits and the demonic. And I would
Annabelle.
speculate more the demonic than human spirits, because there's very rarely a happy ending to haunted doll stories.
True.
Now, there's 2 that stand out that everybody pretty much knows. Annabelle is one.
The
right?
Conjuring, is that the Conjuring story?
Yeah, I mean, The Conjuring brought Annabelle into the story, the movie, but Annabelle had nothing to do with the Conjuring story itself.
Okay.
Annabelle had its own progression. It was
but the Warrens were involved.
The Warrens,
yes,
the Warrens were involved in the Annabelle case. If I remember, it was some college students rooming together in an apartment.
Yep.
Or maybe it was right after college, and they found this doll, and the doll started moving around inside the apartment, and they got the impression that this doll was a child and just wanted somebody, to take care of it, and they gave it permission to stay. And then once they gave it permission, then all hell broke loose. I think that's the basic rundown, JJ, right? I don't think there's the story isn't all that long. Correct. But the Warrens took the doll and put it in their museum. Now, what some people don't know is that doll is not scary one bit. When you look at the doll on the movie, The Conjuring, or the whole Annabelle series of movies, which have nothing to do with the real Annabelle, that doll is terrifying, right? That's like a Chucky on steroids type scary doll. Annabelle is a full-size Raggedy Ann doll.
Yep.
Is it all raggedy? I mean, is it
Nope.
floppy and
It's
all that
in
sort of?
great shape.
It's great shape. Okay.
It just looks happy and redheaded and as can be.
Little Pippi Longstocking looking kind of doll.
Yep.
Yep.
Your typical, what are they? 3 foot high
Yeah,
Raggedy
something.
Ann dolls. One of the big
Raggedy
ones,
Ann,
not one of
yeah.
the little ones.
Yeah, the full size one. I want to say it's like 3.5 feet.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's not small. And it sits in its case that says, do not ever open. And it's blessed once a month and surrounded by blessed salt and holy water and the whole deal. But the other doll that does not get quite as much review is Robert the doll.
In
I
Florida.
see Jacob nodding his head. Do you know much about? Tell the story of Robert.
It's pretty creepy looking. That's all I'll say.
It's more than a little freaky. It is absolutely freaky looking. Oh my gosh.
Josh, bring that picture up where I can see it.
Yeah, it has to do with voodoo as well.
Yeah, so essentially the story is that it used to belong to a family, and anyway, the doll wound up in a museum, which you can still go and see today. And if you happen to make fun of this doll, then horrible things will begin to happen to you until you write an apology letter. And the museum has gotten thousands, I think they've said, up to this point in time.
Yeah.
It's essentially like going to Hawaii and stealing a volcanic rock from a national park, bringing it back, and then people shipping them back with apology notes saying, I'm sorry, I know I broke the law, but horrible things are happening to me, to the point where that bureau is essentially telling people, don't send it back. We can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, so Robert the doll, let's see, it says he's 117 years old now, and
Okay.
he's at the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida, which Laura and I went to years ago, but I don't remember seeing Robert the doll, and it was before we started doing paranormal stuff. Robert the doll is on our bucket list to see. But it's not just saying mean things about Robert the doll. If you go in and take a picture of Robert the doll without asking his permission first, bad things happen. And there are story after story after story of people taking a picture or like JJ said, saying something untoward to Robert, and they go home, and the next thing you know, it's a car crash, ruptured appendix, a
Heart attacks.
house fire, health stuff. Story. I mean, we're talking thousands of stories, and so they send back a letter apologizing for taking the picture without his permission, asking for forgiveness. There are gifts sent to him all the time. They have, a basement or whatever, a storage room full of candies and gifts and stuff like that to appease Robert the doll. It is insane. And let me tell you something, folks. That ain't no normal Casper the Ghost there. Okay. If those stories are true, and there's so many of them, it's hard to believe that they're not. That is by far clear demonic attachment, vexation.
Let me ask you a Victor question. Have there been any of these militant atheist materialist groups that send somebody in, to make obscene gestures toward Robert, take his picture and say horrible things to him, and wait around confidently for nothing to happen? And deliberate Robert taunting.
Oh, there's loads of folks on YouTube that just go up and do it and immediately regret it.
I bet you that if you search for an atheist who took a picture of Robert the doll,
yeah, I bet
I bet you'll find cases where atheists are like, okay,
That was a
I don't
really bad
believe in
idea.
this stuff, but that was a bad idea.
Well, that's an interesting
too
thing,
much of
though. I mean, if you go up there and you treat Robert the doll disrespectfully, however you wish to do it, and then horrible things start to happen to you, how do you easily discount that? I mean, you're just saying this is just coincidence. This is just statistical probability. Well, fine. Send 40 of you guys. Do it all at the same time. And if bad things start happening to all 40 of you, that's a pretty powerful argument.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, the bad things that happen are so severe, Vic.
Aha.
Who is going to sign up for that? This is not like
Right.
I went home and the fridge broke.
This isn't the fridge broke.
Right.
This isn't I got a broken window. This isn't my cat ran away. This is I got pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, it is stuff that is that severe. It really, really is.
It's
Josh,
a death curse, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's what the doll is cursed with a curse of death.
Didn't we watch one of those ghost story or ghost hunter things that did a episode on Robert the doll?
It was Shock Dogs on Discovery Plus.
Yeah, there's a bunch of shows have done episodes on Robert the doll. He is because
It's
it's
fascinating.
It's time for me to go. I'll throw holy water on it one.
I think it might take a little bit more than a little bit of holy water.
Yeah, salt and fire.
Yeah. So, but I'll say this, Laura and I like to say we've been doing paranormal stuff since 2010. And after a while, you start get a sense for where some place is active, where there is intense, it's a feeling of energy or what, but like there's activity here. This is where we're going to get EVPs. This is where we're going to have some sort of interaction. And after a couple of years, we started noticing this stuff in thrift stores. And we used to play Find the Haunted Object in thrift stores.
That seems like a really good idea.
Well, not keep the haunted object, okay?
Sounds
Not
like
take
Russian
home
roulette.
the haunted object, but find. So we would start in different areas of the store and we would go, okay, there's something here.
Using
It's
by
over
what criteria? How are you searching
it's a feeling.
for just
It's
a feeling? Okay.
This is just a feeling. And I got to tell you, not all the time, but there are a lot of times where we would wind up in the same aisle on the same shelf.
Really?
And sometimes the exact same object. And the thing about the objects, what I noticed was they were not common objects, right? It wasn't the wooden spoon, right, or the glass bowl. They were usually more ornate objects, something that someone from a home like a great grandmother's house where it was one of the special items that she had. Maybe it was a serving set that was ornate, or it was a set of, the dolls that fit inside of each other, the little Russian dolls, or something unique that would be like an item that somebody would sort of treasure and spend a lot of time taking care of and appreciating and putting on the shelf and noticing and showing to people. There was something that someone would be attached to emotionally. Those are the kind of items that it tended to be. And of course, dolls. And my wife hates dolls.
I hate dolls.
She can't stand them. And I mean, not there's any time a thrift store has a doll section, we'll be like, oh yeah, there's something over there. And as soon as she sees them, she turns around, she's out of the store.
Out of the store, totally.
And I'm like, ooh, which doll is it?
It's not enough just to avoid the dolls. You've got to leave the store.
Yeah, you got to leave the store.
I don't like any anthropometric thing. Statue of David, I'm happy with. Okay, classical art doesn't bother me. But little creepy dolls. They just always look kind of sinister.
Oh, yeah.
Like
To
them
me.
2-3 foot porcelain dolls that, I ain't dealing with them.
Yeah,
Oh.
porcelains are the worst.
I'm sure part of that's the Uncanny Valley stuff. I mean, my brain is looking at something that pretends to be human, but it doesn't quite make it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I probably get that discomfort of, that's not quite right.
Yeah,
So
but
the
some of
question
them
could
are
be- the question
really,
could
really
be-
well done.
Is the Uncanny Valley phenomenon a natural protective mechanism to keep us away from haunted dolls or haunted
That's-
anthropometric objects?
Great question.
I know, I'm a really smart guy.
Well, no,
I know
it is a good because you've got two different competing concepts going on. You have what's it called? I know you're going to know this answer, Vic.
Maybe.
Parabellum, paracellum, the ability to see faces and things that don't have faces.
Pareidoia.
Pareidoia. Yeah,
Pareidoia.
pareidoia.
Thank you.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You've got that, and then you've also got the Uncanny Valley going on.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now, the uncanny who?
Uncanny Valley. There's a point where, look, so for instance, Casper, Bugs Bunny,
Okay.
Little Lotta, Charlie Brown. You look at them and you just think, oh, cartoon. There's nothing that bothers you about them. Okay. You look at a photograph of a person or a really, really beautifully drawn pencil drawing of a person, and your brain says, oh, okay, that's the person, or it's a skillful representation of the person.
Right.
But as you, especially in anime, as you kind of start getting closer and closer and closer and closer to what a human really is, then, especially in animation, you don't get the animation just right. There's something's not right. Even if it's really, really close, your brain goes, nope, that's not a human. And
well,
yeah.
it's really more of 3D world that you get this in CGI is where it really comes into play, or with humanoid robots.
Yes,
robotics is very apparent now. So,
and it's I felt it. It's a very unpleasant feeling.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah, it's a very unpleasant feeling.
Well, and one other thing to go back to what Dave was just talking about, you do have this concept in Japanese called tsukimori, and they are objects usually that were very well taken care of for a very long time, and they can develop their own spirit and they come alive. However, it's not the type of object is not, there's no limit to the type of object. You've had umbrellas, you can have paper walls. The list goes on. Obis from kimonos. The list goes on.
This is a Delabear.
God bless you.
Since
I don't know what that is.
So since I'm in Delaware, this is like a $200 teddy bear. Very, very high-end, expensive teddy bear, which is in this room where I'm staying. And I'm probably, by the end of this show, going to find somewhere else for this bear to live for the rest of the time that I'm here. Because I just don't like having it in the room.
Let me guess, you weren't a big fan of Teddy Ruxpin back in the day.
No, absolutely not. Nope. Now, I had a teddy bear when I was a kid that seemed to me to be a pretty nice teddy bear. But, so am I silly for just thinking anthropomorphic, weird, don't want this where I'm sleeping?
No.
That doesn't bother me as much.
Do you remember the old Furbies?
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, I remember the Furbies.
Those things were damn terrifying to me.
Now, there is a bear that's used in paranormal investigating. It's called the Boo Buddy.
The Parabear?
It's called the Boo Buddy.
Boo Buddy. Let's hear about the Boo Buddy.
The Boo Buddy has sensors all in it, and I don't like them. They drive me nuts. But it talks, which is freaky. And it'll say things like, "Ooh, it's getting colder," when it feels a temperature drop. Yeah, that's exactly. That's like,
I mean, you get that, whatever that rifle is that my father-in-law has. I mean,
yeah.
Time to break out the shotgun.
Boo Buddies splattered all over the room.
That's what I want for the thing that's going, "Ooh, it's getting cold in here," or "Gosh, this is a scary place."
You want something that puts the biggest hole possible.
Yes.
Preferably multiple of them right through it. It does. It's an interesting concept. So the reason they created it was for investigating in places where there might be child spirits.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Because it would be more approachable than something like a REM pod or an Ovilus. It's something that is kid friendly, and it let's see, it detects EMF changes, it detects vibrations and temperature if it gets moved, and it speaks to these changes, and it will it will do things like say, "Does somebody want to play with me?" Again, pow pow. but it's kind of annoying because, especially if there is a lot of activity happening, it'll keep saying these things every time it makes an adjustment. And so it messes with my audio. It's too much noise. I don't like. But it is an interesting concept.
Well, first off, when they say a doll is moving, okay, what are they talking about? Are they talking about the doll, actually moving its limbs, or just disappearing from one place and showing up in another place, or what?
Oh, no. Well, I imagine it would definitely go, "Wait, where am I now?" Teleportation. I don't know if they've got a sensor for that, but no, vibration. And then there's probably some sort of motion sensor inside of it that detects that it has physically changed position. Like something has caused it to fall over, or something has lifted its arm or moved it in some way.
Father Mike, weren't you one time in the presence of a whole bag of dolls that were specifically designed for placing curses on individuals or something?
Yep. Josh and I both. Right outside in the outback building of the church.
What was the final outcome for those dolls?
Oh, they got gone. So did she. When I told her she could not bring her dolls back to church. Oh, I got one for each of you. You got to go.
Amen.
I'm not laughing at you.
I know.
I'm just thinking. What I'm thinking in my mind is,
what Dave? What was?
How does it? Go ahead.
Dave actually picked up some things out there.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. There was some EVPs. I haven't finished reviewing everything from that building, but yeah, there was some definite EVPs there. I don't remember what they were offhand, but it was one of those places where, and I told you at the time we did the walkthrough, I could feel something in that corner. You remember? And you're like, well, that's where she huddled down at, was over in that corner. And I guarantee you she was doing some sort of ritual in that corner. Because it had that feeling. It had that, not all is right with the world here. And I don't know. It's one of those things you investigate enough. It's not like a psychic or telepathic thing. It's enough reinforcement of activity that you start to recognize. It's sort of like feeling a room is cold. That's not what it is, but it's like, oh, this room is cold. It's a little colder than it is usually. It's that kind of a feeling. It's just a internal, yeah, there's something here. There's some sort of energy here.
All right, Dave. So what's the mechanism? What's happening here?
I have no idea. And I don't know if it's something that can be explained. I don't think we have the science to explain it. I think there is science to explain it, just like I think there's science to explain how these things happened. I think there's some form of energy that science does not recognize. And I don't know. I don't think we have detectors to detect it because we don't know that it's there. But I think there is something scientific that's happening, and at some point we'll figure it out.
So what about other objects besides dolls?
Well, I mean,
it could be anything.
Any type of
paintings. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Paintings. Isn't there a painting, something like the crying boy painting, or the?
Oh yeah, those are big in England, and quite a few different house fires have erupted because of those things. So people claim.
One of the links I sent actually has a picture of the painting you're mentioning.
I grew up with 2 haunted paintings, I believe.
Yep.
You've told that story once. Can you go for that one more time?
Yeah, sure. So behind where I used to sleep in the living room was a large oil painting, and it looked just like the barn out of Stephen King's Children of the Corn. And it had it had a slightly open doorway. And I don't know if the artist meant to do this or if it was something else, but there's a small pinprick of paint right there in the blackness, like almost like a little tiny sliver of light shining through that door. And it used to scare the ever living bejesus out of me. And the other one is a painting, a photograph of my great grandfather that hung on the adjacent wall. And that was the painting that I dreamed was gazing down upon me and predicted the day that I was going to die.
He got to go.
That painting, that picture went to my other great uncle, and then he passed away. And I think it went to my uncle Ernest, and he's passed away. I've been trying to get a hold of that picture, and no one knows where it is anymore. Sadly.
For what purpose?
I don't know. I feel a yearning to have that picture. I really do.
Oh, okay. Well,
why? I have no idea, but it's there. I don't know if it's to hang on to family mementos because they're beginning to fade or what the reason might be. But
and the next class for Nature of the Demonic is Know When to Say When.
I hope to get Leanne on here to be a guest. She could tell the full story here, but there is a plantation in Virginia, and I assume it's in the Richmond area. I can't remember. I don't think we actually investigated there, but I heard the story. I heard her tell the story. There was a painting in it at the top of the stairs. And the painting was of the matriarch, like the great grandmother of the people who currently live there, or maybe great. It's been a family, property for many years. And that painting had to stay at the top of the steps. Anytime they moved it, like put it in a different room, put it in storage. All kinds of hell broke loose in the house. And all kinds of paranormal activity, all kinds of bad dreams, everything else, until they would take that painting and put it back at the top of the stairs.
And then everything was cool again.
And then everything would stop immediately. Everything was good again.
Wow.
Josh, what is this painting you've listed here for us that is absolutely horrid?
It's one of it's on a list of the 10 most haunted objects in the world. This is number 2.
Okay, for people who can't see this, and I guess we'll put this in the show notes. It's a decrepit mansion-looking space made of concrete, plaster, white paint, or something. There's a window facing out into a blue sky with really scary trees and 2 silhouettes of children, both of whom look kind of creepy. There's a tricycle covered in vines. There's the haunted Dobby doll, something coming through the floor. There's another one in a sewer down below. But the star of the painting is this child, and I use that word strangely because it's something that the way he's painted it, it looks like a child that's 65 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It's something very, very strange. His head is shifted forward from where it ought to be. He's got a ring on his right ring finger and a paintbrush, holding a tarot type hanged man in the other hand. He's not painting anything, and he looks totally devoid of life. How did I do there? Is that a pretty good description of the...
Yeah, he looks very disturbed.
Yeah, very disturbed.
But there's all kinds of detail in this. You have Thing from the Addams Family, or the Monsters, whichever show it is that has the hand that walks around on its own.
Addams Family.
Addams Family, okay. You have a ghostly child handprint on the wall. You have something that looks like one of the witch figures out of the Blair Witch Project hanging from the tree. These ghostly images of figures with glowing heads and dark feather winged bodies. You got a moon, a crescent moon that's in that odd position where its points are facing straight up.
And behind the vines, Dave, behind those 2 things hanging from the vine, in that window, or the barred window, if you zoom in, there's skulls in between each one of them too.
Oh yeah, up there,
yeah.
They definitely look like tortured souls.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very disturbing painting.
So, any idea why somebody painted it?
They were very disturbed.
Or trying to look very disturbed.
Yeah.
Or they were just remembering their childhood. Josh, what's the story of this one? It's the second most haunted object. Any story behind it?
He put the story below it.
Apparently wherever this painting hangs, the boy in the figure actually comes out of the painting and walks around.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Time to go.
Nope.
People who look at the painting also express complaints about feeling ill, weak, or sick. So even just looking at the painting just makes people sick.
And the guy who wrote the piece about it died.
Stoneham is the guy's name. He claims the artwork is based on a snapshot of himself when he was 5 years old.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wonder what happened to the 2 kids that are blacked out outside through the window.
Another thing is money.
Yeah.
Cursed money, haunted money.
Yeah. My great aunts and uncle lived next door to us. And there are all of these legends about the previous resident who owned the land before they did. Old man, I think his name was McMurray. Anyway, he was a famous miser, and he would bury all of his money in coffee cans around the property. And he would always threaten anyone who came over of, if you touch my coffee cans, I'm going to come back and get you. And there was actually quite a few ghost stories that they would used to tell me when I was a kid, when we would be sitting out on her back porch of, you see that lantern light floating off in the distance? That's old man McMurray.
That's the coffee can man coming to get you.
I wonder if that's behind the story of, you guys remember the Charlie Daniels song, The Legend of Woolly Swamp?
Vaguely.
Yep.
So
they figured out they were running quicksand when they started getting the man's coffee cans full of money.
That's right. Yeah, again, you think of money being haunted. If you compare that to the idea of these haunted objects in thrift stores, they're cherished things that you put your energy into, things that you focus on, that you covet, right? And, money, hard money, coins, silver coins, for many people, those would be the case.
Well, even something that's not precious. I mean, it could be as simple as something on someone's grave at a cemetery. Just picking that up, something could be attached to it.
Oh yeah, and that's not even talking about, like, at least where I grew up, and I think this is true for most of the South. There is a gigantic set of etiquette rules that you have to follow when you enter into a graveyard. If you go walking on someone's grave, bad things are going to happen to you. If you take
you do try not to walk on the actual graves.
Yep. But
how do you avoid it in some places?
Oh,
if you're going to see the tombstone,
you stand 6 feet back.
Yeah.
Or you walk in between.
Walk to the side.
The issue is that so many stones have fallen in some of these older cemeteries. And, you just never know where the graves are.
I know. In fact, the funny thing, I think I may have told this, I'm not really sure. But when I was visiting my mom, I went out to the graveyard in which a lot of my family is buried, including my grandmother. And I was actually recording because I was going to do a little video of it. And I saw a black dot speeding toward me out of the corner of my eye. And I just knew, oh God, I shouldn't have been filming in here. They're going to get me. When I looked down and realized it was two little puppies that were trying to get my attention, but it scared the crap out of me. And I just knew that I was doing something I wasn't supposed, even though I meant no disrespect, and I was certainly only meaning respect entirely, but still I felt uneasy even doing that.
Weren't those puppies in pretty bad shape?
Yes, they were. Had ticks in their eyes, and I felt awful for them.
I will say I've spent a fair amount of time in cemeteries. Laura and I love to walk through them. The sculptures, some of the headstones are absolutely beautiful works of art. And I love cemeteries. Very little paranormal activity in cemeteries. I have investigated some of them at night. We did go to one in Richmond that had Civil War soldiers. Now, we did not have anything happen there, but the police that we talked to at the entrance said, they would go in there to write reports sometimes to get off the streets and just have a quiet place.
Yeah.
And they'd heard cannon shots, cannon rounds fired there on a pretty
really?
regular basis. Yeah.
Kind of an auditory event ghost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like what you would hear on the battlefield in Gettysburg. People report hearing cannon fire all the time.
So no Paranormal Rundown anymore is complete without rabbits.
Oh my God.
So let me tell you a story of what I believe was an actual psychic attack on me concerning a rabbit of sorts.
Did you bring out the holy grenade?
The holy hand grenade of Antioch.
1, 2, 5, 3, 3.
Yeah. Count 5 thusly to 4, and thou shalt not count 2, 3, unless thou proceedeth unto 4, or however that goes. My former mother-in-law hated me beyond what any other human being has ever hated me. I mean, she really, really hated me. Made very few bones about this. And one year, she writes to me. She sends me this big box. And there's a letter in there that says something like, it's time to bury the hatchet. It's time to try and forge a good relationship with my son-in-law. And so I've made you this. She made me she was a very, very good seamstress, very good quilt maker, whatever you call that kind of person. She made me this thing that I swear was a demonic rabbit, about 4 feet tall. And it had wire inside the ears so you could mold the ears to be in any particular position. And it had, these big buck teeth, but they were sharp, kind of like fangs. And it had...
That sounds horrifying.
That's burying the hatchet?
It had these kind of shiny, somehow marble eyes, and it had claws on its hands. And it was a horrible, horrible thing to have.
Was there a hatchet sticking out of its back?
And so what do when somebody sends you something horrible like this? What do? I mean, do you write back and say, I'm not going to use her real name, but let's just say it's, Cassandra. Well, gee, Cassandra, gosh, I really love the demonic rabbit you sent me. Thank you so very, very much. Or do you write something back that says, gee, Cassandra, thank you for your thoughts and your efforts. And that's what I did. Wrote something, very generic like that. Well,
that's the right thing to do.
Right
before you burn it.
Right before you burn it. So here I am. See, but what I'm getting at is, if you were able to put the paranormal whammy on an object, sending it as a gift would be a very good way to attack somebody.
Oh, yeah.
A very good way to attack, because at this point, she had gained my wife's trust. Like, she said, "Oh, that was so nice of my mom. Let's put that on the big chair in the corner of the living room so everybody can see it all the time when they come in." Okay, and so just imagine the room where everybody hangs out. There's suddenly this 4-foot demonic rabbit thing sitting in that chair, and every time you sit down, you just feel like, what's going to repeat, sneak it behind me and stab me or rip my throat out or something.
Look, man, I've watched Supernatural. I'd have gutted that thing looking for the hex bag, okay?
See, I don't think at this time I had watched Supernatural, but I got to tell you, that rabbit absolutely terrified me. And I remember fighting it, thinking, "Oh, come on, Victor, this is absolutely irrational. Why are you afraid of a very ugly pile of fabric and stuffing material?" So in order to appease my wife, we left it in the chair in the living room for a while. And other people started saying things to me like, "Hey, Victor, let me ask you something. You really like having that rabbit in the living room? No, no. That's a good because it makes me feel really creepy. So finally, I was able to convince my former wife that we could put it up in the closet. We had this big walk-in closet. Put it up high. And then every time I would go into the closet to get a shirt or anything, I would be like looking up at this thing, like, what the heck? And it was like it was ready to pounce on me or something. And
Because it was.
And I can remember honestly over time getting to the point where I felt nauseated and weak, and just very, very uneasy around this demonic rabbit.
Time for it to go.
And finally it did go. And there's no punchline like, I took it to the dump and put it under the biggest pile I could find, and the next day it was on the front porch. No, nothing like that. It went away. But my God, that thing made me uncomfortable and unhappy. And I don't remember how we explained to Cassandra that we no longer had Demon Bunny.
Oh, I would have explained it very simply. Oh, it was lost in a fire. Now, fortunately, it was the only thing in the fire, but it was lost. I'm sorry.
But what better way would there be to attack somebody than to give them a haunted, cursed object?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take this back to the original thought on icons.
Mm-hmm.
All right. A curse on an object.
Mm-hmm.
Are you altering at a subatomic level, at a quantum level, the particles in that thing to affect the probabilities around it of what's happening?
I can't fight against that possibility. Now, could you go the opposite? I mean, could you send a blessed object?
Yes.
Something that was likely to make your life better.
I got 2 examples of that.
Let's hear them.
Excellent.
The first is Catholics have their scapulas.
Mm-hmm.
The Ethiopic Orthodox believers, they have the Lefafa Sedek, which is a book of holy spells that if you are buried with it, or some believe wrapped with it, then you will enter into the narrow gate of heaven. But the one that means the most to me, I wear 2 blessed medallions around my neck. One that I got from the bishop from the Nicolean TV group, and the other one from our very own Father Mike. Do you know that I still, since wearing these, and it's been more than 2 months now, I have not had a single nightmare.
Well, that's awesome, because you have nightmares like nobody's business.
Constantly.
You're a nightmare machine.
And
That's fantastic.
to not have one is a miracle.
So does that just seem to be relatively powerful evidence that the nightmares were a result of some sort of attack?
Yeah, and considering that I'm not the only one in my family who suffers from this condition.
Yeah.
Generational curse.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And I hate to go there, but I
Exactly.
really think that's exactly what it is.
So
That's what it looks like. Looks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
Where do I fit on the spectrum? Okay, from Father Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Saint Benedict medal. I put it in my computer case. I take it with me. I have one on my keychain. I don't look at it as a blessed or powerful object. I look at it as every time I see this, I remember that someone who cares about me sent me their blessing. Okay, it's a continuing blessing. Didn't just happen once. It's every time I look at it, every time I hold it, I can think someone who deeply believes in God and the power of God sent me their positive thoughts based on this metal.
Therefore, it is a blessed object because
Therefore, it
you
is
will be in blessing.
blessed by it.
Let me,
but that's how I look at these things.
yeah. Well, let me tell you how it's blessed, and that will shed some light on it as well.
Okay.
When I bless those objects, they are placed on the altar of the Lord while I am doing Holy Eucharist.
Really?
Yes. And as I am consecrating the host and wine, I am also saying the prayer over those objects that they may be forever a sign and a symbol consecrated unto God for the people of God for specific works. Now, the Saint Benedict ones that I've given you guys were for the dismantling and dispelling of all evil, sicknesses and disease and accidents and things like that. Hence the Saint Benedictine order and the Saint Benedictine medal to be that tool, to be that sacramentum, if you will, for these specific types of blessings. And so, therefore, it's a consecrated item.
Right.
Same point as someone using demonic magic or black magic or something like that, putting a voodoo curse on some doll or something. We're full of blessings or cursings, and whatever we are speaking into things and verbalize things, those things are can eventually happen.
Okay, I got two other things real quick.
Yes.
The first is we forgot to add books to that list.
Oh yeah,
that's a very, very important one.
My mom encountered this firsthand when she married my father, and she had moved up with him to Washington State. They were living in a trailer, and it was the first night after they'd been married. They went into the trailer. She put the wedding certificate on top of a book of spells that he had.
Wow.
Because he liked to dabble in the dark.
Mm.
They left, came back. That was the last time anyone's ever seen that wedding certificate. And she will have nothing to do with any of that stuff anymore. The second is, when it comes to these medals, I will say this: something does not want me to have them on. And I'm
Really?
I'm not trying to be dramatic.
No.
Or my neck, and this is not because I have an allergy to a metal or anything like that. These things are a constant source of me wanting to get them off at certain times. My neck will itch. I've got like 3 or 4 mosquito bites back there. I feel like I want to scratch it off. Just like, and it just becomes such a major point. But I know if I do that, something bad's going to happen. And so I don't. I never even consider that to be a possibility. But yet, something really does not like this to be around my neck.
Well, I can tell you.
Could be in my head. I don't know.
It really don't surprise me. Yeah.
The Saint Benedict medal that I wear, it's not the original one that I got. This one is from Father Ripperger. And it gets holy water or oil put on it on a regular basis, so it turns brown. It does the whole gets the patina on it. But I bought my first one in, I think, 2019, maybe, where after my experience with the demonic, the stuff that would happen here, negative stuff would happen. It wasn't like direct attacks, but stuff would break, stuff would go wrong, and it would always happen in threes, right? And by the time the third thing happened, I would be furiously angry, right? And finally, after the third thing happened, I put my fist through the wall, And I'm like, something has got to change. I've got to find a way to deal with this to keep these things from happening. Because that was the way I would always know it was demonic. It would be 3 things in the same day, always 3s. And so I bought at a chapel up in St. Augustine. It's a Catholic church there, shrine actually, and they had the St. Benedict's medal, and I bought one and I put it on, and I've worn one ever since. And that stuff doesn't happen. I think there's only one time I can think of something happening in 3s, and that was spread across a week. But it was all, and that we talked about that offline, but that was on my trip this past summer. But generally, no issues since I started wearing it. And, that stuff was happening, every month or two. I would go through something that was like 3 things would break, fail, go wrong all within the same day. And the anger was how I really picked up on it, because I would be just furious by the end of it, which was sort of the goal.
Bless
But
your heart.
the metal stopped that. And I know that, you'll hear Father Ripperger or Rossetti, they'll talk about, these things aren't magic, right? You need to not see them as magical things. But to me, they represent the battle with the demonic. Every time I see it, in fact, every time I put it on, which I only take it off for showers, the rest of the time I keep it on. When I put it on, I ask God for 3 things every time I put it on, right? I ask for guidance, protection, and forgiveness. And so that's just sort of a ritual that I've put together in my mind, because those are the 3 most important things to me from God, and I put that on, and it is a reminder of that battle with, my own personal battles with sin, my own desire to do the right thing, to say the right things, to be the right influence, whether to my family, on the podcast, whatever, and needing that protection for myself and my family. And so it's not magical. It doesn't have this power, like I hold it up and, devil be gone, but it is a reminder to me of the fight.
Fair enough.
That fight, just being in it, just remembering that you're in it, I think is part of the protection itself. And I think it does have protective ability. I think that it's a reminder to the demonic that, hey, every day I put that on, I'm claiming myself for God. And that's part of the strength that it has.
Yeah.
But again, what's happening is it happening at the quantum level that act, that prayer, that blessing, is that physically changing that object in some way that affects how the demonic works at the quantum level?
There's only one thing that I do know, and this is it. There are some things, as the great Charlie Daniels said, in the legend of Woolly Swamp, there's some things in this world you just can't explain.
You just can't explain.
Just can't explain.
If you're smart, you don't mess with them.
Exactly.
I've never been called smart.
I think you're smart. You've avoided having 500,000 people wishing you your demise.
Yeah, that may be a little bit more lucky. I looked at that list and thought, I'm screwed.
So,
well, gentlemen, we have been going
a while.
3 hours. I'm getting whooped.
I am too.
But it's been a great discussion.
It
It
has.
has. I
Very
really
much.
appreciate it, y'all.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
heading on. And,
Thank you, gentlemen.
So I guess Father Mike has to end this.
I do.
Thank you, Father Mike.
Not a problem, but we will talk again soon. And Father Mike's going night-night.
I think that's a good idea.
I
Bye-bye.
am too.
Hey, y'all have a good night.
Take
Bye,
care,
all.
guys.
Yeah, have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Every good paranormal rundown needs at least a few minutes of dungeon talk. So let's end the show on that. You know the spiel anyway. Lobo Loco, public domain, and immediate clips were used under the protection of the Fair Use Doctrine. And write to us at feedback@paranormalrundown.com. Come back in less than 2 weeks now and listen to a show released on time. I promise. Bye-bye, everyone.
Can I have 2 more minutes?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm joking. Go ahead.
I am at a place that literally seems to have a portal to hell. I'll go take some pictures and send them to you. If you go into the laundry room, there's a door that is locked. You can unlock the door. You can go into that room, and there's a little platform that goes up where it looks like probably at one point somebody made flowers or put flower arrangements together. Lots of little vases and, foo-foo flowery things. But next to it is a stairway going down into the earth. And there is no pavement, there is no concrete, there is just earth. Straight down into the earth. And you can smell.
This is under the house.
This is under the house. And it proceeds quite a ways in there. And man, I got to tell you, the first time I saw that, I said, "What's with the monster pit?" And she said, "Yeah, that's a monster pit. They live down there. They come up and visit sometimes. But man, you talk about a creepy thing in one's home. There's a monster pit out there."
Yeah, please take photos.
Have you gone down it?
That's what I was going to ask. Have you been down there?
It's so dark, I got to find some kind of reasonable flashlight.
My speculation would be that it is something along the lines of a place to put potatoes, a place to put root vegetables and things that need to sit in, cool, damp
stuff.
Old-timey wine cellar.
My father-in-law thinks it was a grease pit, but it looks a whole lot more like a monster hole than a grease pit to me.
Is it in the garage? Or you mean grease pit like to get rid of grease from the stove?
No, I think a grease pit like a gas station might have.
But it isn't in the garage?
It's in a little side building, which maybe, this is an old house, maybe 50 years ago, maybe 80 years ago, had been a grease pit.
The side building a car could fit in, it had like a door opens for a car?
It doesn't anymore, but it may have. I don't have any pictures of what this house used to look like.
How big?
My grandfather had a grease pit. And generally, well, I guess it would depend on when it was built. His house was built probably in the 50s. And that grease pit was a concrete rectangle.
Mm-hmm.
You drove over it, you pulled the slats, right? Mm-hmm. You took a little ladder to get down into it. Mm-hmm. And it was concrete, the floor, the sides, and everything. Because if you didn't do that, you wound up with moisture problems.
Yep, you'd end up with moisture problems. This has a smell. It's not a good smell, but it's also not a horrible smell. So anyway, I'm just letting you know that I'm residing in a place with a monster pit, and I will get some pictures.
Yes.
Do you need me to send you an EMF detector and
No. And believe me, that was the very first thing I thought was, no, Victor, do not do anything other than go look at this pit. Do not try to get any EVPs. Do not try to get an EMF. Just walk down and say a prayer and leave. Just as you do not do investigations in your own home, you do not do investigations into the homes of people that you love.
Well, okay. To be fair, the reason you don't do investigations in your own home is because you are giving them permission to interact with you.
Right.
And therefore, they will interact with you all the time. Investigating your loved one's homes
I don't have
is not a
here.
problem.
Right.
Well, no, it's okay to investigate because you don't live there. Therefore, they're not going to constantly badger you after you investigate.
Well, I don't want there to be a situation where they're being constantly badgered.
Well, yeah, you could stir up activity, which could be a problem. But boy, take that flashlight down. I want to do FaceTime video. I don't know. I want to see what's down there.
I'll do a video of the pit.
I'm curious,
but it is a pit. So
you don't have a metal detector, do you?
Oh God!
Oh, he's got to have a metal detector.
I bet you $100 there's a metal detector here somewhere.
Yeah, I would run that along the floor down there too.